Hi, my name is Thisen, and I was asked by Japanese to speak a few words here on their film club, which has recently been started uh, by a group of students from RIC, I believe. And I must say that I'm really moved by this initiative because back when I was in school, there wasn't a lot of focus or attention, I believe, that was put on the arts or drama or filmmaking. So I'm glad that there is now this program, this club that is just completely dedicated towards filmmaking, and I'm glad that it's happening because there's a lot of talent out there, a lot of talent out there, and hopefully this is a platform that all of you would get to um, put out your work. So all the best with that, and yeah. So I was asked to speak a few words here about what I think of film and filmmaking, and based on my short experience of being part of this industry, making short films, and being on set, I guess. So yeah, and um, so the thing is, to start off, I really don't have a lot to add because I mean I have made two short films. One that is still it's still in post production. The other one that's already out. Um, and I believe two of our cast members, Modita and Maling, also spoke about the film and their experiences in this program before. Um, so I don't think I really have a lot to add about that as well. It 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 went to a few international and local film festivals, and yeah, that's about it. And now it's out on YouTube. So if anyone's interested, they can go and check it out. But anyways, I was supposed to talk about filmmaking here, what I think about it, and yes, so I was thinking about what I should really say, and what came to my mind was the fact that at least in my opinion, I feel like there's something that's often missed out on when it comes to talking about the art of filmmaking, and when it comes to um, you know learning filmmaking. This one thing that's often missed out on, because I feel these days filmmaking is more focused on the technical aspects, like editing or the camera lenses or the softwares and all of those things. While they are important tools, obviously, I don't think that is really what filmmaking is about, because filmmaking is more of a philosophy than a technical process, right? So I felt like I should just maybe say a few things about what I've been learning and I'm still learning about the art of filmmaking. So one thing I felt like you should say is that when as aspiring filmmakers, when we set out to make our first short films, I think this is something that may seem a bit restraining from a creative perspective, but I think it's I think you should also consider the practical factors that go into it as well. And what I wanted to say is that when you're setting out to make your first short films, it is usually you're working on a tight budget, a small crew. That's usually the case. That was the case with my first short film. My idea is to keep it minimalistic, obviously, because we may have some great ideas, maybe like some gigantic scripts that are lying around, but I don't think that's really practical for us to make as our first project, because I think it's always important for us to keep our stories minimalistic right as we're starting off, because we don't have as much resources that at our hand to tell these stories that have this big scope. And I think there's enough and more stories that we can tell about our day-to-day lives that don't require anything that is of a large scale, right? And if we look into film history, especially films, from more European films, like films from the French New Wave, you can see how they embraced minimalism and just made stories about day-to-day lives. And I think those films are actually fascinating because they There's something so raw and realistic to those films, especially, you check out some work from the French Nouvelle, and even the more contemporary films from France and more the European region. They often have films that are very realistic and minimalistic by design, and there's something that is so raw and authentic to them that I find personally beautiful, and something that I find easy to connect to than most of these large scale Hollywood productions that we get nowadays. But that's a subjective opinion that was just thrown out in the middle of all this. But um, and the other thing, I can't elaborate a lot on what I want to say and what I wish I could say, because it's very little time here. So, and it's not like I know a lot either. But whatever I do know, I still don't think I can really say with a small time. But whatever, you know. And the other thing is, it's I also feel is a common misconception that surrounds filmmaking, is the idea that films and movies, they have to inherently be entertaining, or else it's a bad movie, or it's not a good movie and no one's gonna watch it. And I don't agree with that. While majority of people do like films that are entertaining, I don't think that's the only purpose that films should have. Films can be boring, exhausting, horrifying, disgusting, um, just unbearable even. But as long as they all have something to say, I think those emotions are, we aren't just entertained, right? In our day-to-day lives, we experience boredom, disgust, and all of these things in our day-to-day life. So that has to be explored through art. That has to be explored through cinema. So obviously these emotions are also very much important to be explored in film. It just doesn't have to be entertaining. One thing that's always said is that films have to be entertaining, have to be funny, but I don't think that's the case, although that's what the majority prefers. From a financial perspective or a more corporate perspective, that may make a bit of sense, but just solely from a filmmaking perspective alone, I don't think that's really the case. And and also these rules that are usually discussed, like for instance the 180 rule or whatever they may call it. I don't think these rules are that important to stick to. I think, like when you learn, like, when you listen to some of the things that these masters might say, like directors like Paul Schrader, they've often said, break the rules, make your rule break a rule. I don't think rules are very important to stick to, but even if you do want to break, like let's say the 180 rule or something like that, there better be a reason. Like, your the what you want to do through your film, whether it's provoking a specific emotion, everything has to have a reason. At the end of the day, as filmmakers, there's always something that you have to say. Maybe what you're really trying to say is nothing. Maybe still that could be a reason. Maybe you don't want to say anything, but that is still a reason, right? So I think that there should be a specific vision that should always be, focused on when you make a film. Don't and I don't really encourage the idea of, basing your plot or basing a story um, around if you have a beautiful looking location, basing it around that, or basing it around an ex, a political ideology that you don't personally believe in. Then it becomes propaganda. Films aren't supposed to deliver messages. I guess I don't think that films aren't supposed to deliver messages. I think films should have something to say, so the audience can think about it and, um, come into their own conclusion. They can have their own interpretation of it instead of being told what to think of. Um, by a filmmaker. And I think when filmmakers often try to ham in a message, it becomes propaganda. It doesn't become film or cinema, it becomes something else. So I think what the other most important thing that we should try to focus on in filmmaking is figuring out what we have to say. It could be political, it could be psychological, it could be anything, it could be philosophical, spiritual, but make sure that we always have something to say, which is also the other reason why filmmakers shouldn't just be. I don't think filmmakers should just study filmmaking. I think filmmakers should, study almost everything that is at their hand. Again, like everything else, because film can be about anything. It can be about religion, science, politics, people. It's always about people, but mostly about people. but it can literally be about anything. It could just be about, a dry piece of land. We don't know, but still, which is why I think it's important for all of us to try and educate ourselves on almost everything out there. Reading is very important when it comes to filmmaking, politics, psychology, philosophy. I think that's what really ultimately makes your script more more impactful, because you have a much more knowledge about what's around you. And I think that's what we as aspiring filmmakers should try to do. Just, focus more on that philosophical aspect of filmmaking instead of that, more than the technical aspect of filmmaking. While the technical aspect is very important, it's usually not entirely the filmmaker's responsibility. Usually, you have editors, cinematographers who take care of that for you. You should know about it. You should be a jack of all trades, definitely. But I think what you should have more of an idea about is that vision you have as a filmmaker, the vision of what you want to say, that philosophical um, element. That is what you should have very. That is what should be very coherent in your work. So I wish I could elaborate on what I want to say and what I'm trying to say, but I don't think I really can, because there isn't much time here. So anyways, thanks for making me a part of this program, and I like to wish everyone the best of luck going forward with their club. Yeah, have a good day. Thank you.